Hey everyone, it's Sevi. You'll likely have heard that Hoyoverse is releasing its new sci-fi anime RPG, Honkai Star Rail. I was fortunate enough to get into the second closed beta test for an early taste of this new adventure, and I'd like to share my impressions so far. So, of course, since it's in beta, we don't know what will change towards the official release, but I think I've had enough time to form my thoughts on Star Rail, and I hope this video will also give you an idea of what to expect. Let's begin. The game immediately pulled me in with an opening battle cutscene with Canon and D playing in the background. I don't usually play sci-fi games, but I do enjoy sci-fi films, and some outer space action accompanied by classical music was a fun hook. The prologue takes us through how the main character wakes up with no memory of their past and a weapon of mass destruction inside them. We are eventually helped by March 7th and Dan Heng, turning into an odd trio of guardians who go from planet to planet on the Astral Express with a mission to understand and protect worlds from Stellaron. As they visit worlds, the young adventurers find themselves involved in various struggles and try to help other characters that they meet along the way. Additionally, if you're invested in the Honkai universe, you'll recognize strikingly similar Honkai characters such as Himiko, Bronya, and more. The connections and how these universes are related to one another may be quite the treat for lore lovers to pick apart, but playing Honkai 3rd is definitely not a prerequisite to enjoying the story as it stands on its own. Now, a good story needs good characters, and so far, I've found the characters and their dynamics to be enjoyable. The MC, March 7th, and Dan Heng's banters are cute, making them likable protagonists to experience the story with, while some characters have backgrounds that I'm more compelled to uncover. Aside from personality, the character designs are also very interesting. To use Dan Heng's style as a general example, it combines modern clothing with traditional garb, but the form and paneling of his outfit make him feel like a natural part of this sci-fi setting. So those blended elements for me are nice features in the character designs. I think it's important that Hoyoverse nails these character designs since, as a gacha game, they will become major selling points of the banners. Another major design aspect are of course the various locations. So far we have two main settings. First is the high-tech Herta space station, your base of operations. Then there's the icy planet Yarilo 6 and its city Belobog, built to protect its residents from the unending winter. But while the city's overworld is urban and sophisticated, it also has a more derelict underground industrial mining town. I like that contrast as it gives Star Rail's world more intrigue and lore potential, and I look forward to traveling to more diverse settings befitting a grand space adventure. And when you're navigating Star Rail's world, it isn't displayed as one huge map, but rather it's divided into smaller areas. Navigating all these areas is fairly straightforward, and you have teleport waypoints to easily move around. These divisions make the game feel a bit more manageable so that exploration isn't too overwhelming. There's added incentive to carefully search every corner of the map by fighting enemies and unlocking chest rewards. I appreciate that. Per area, there's a chest counter in the corner of the map that will show you how many chests are still on the map. I also have to mention the music, which I highly value in games, and Hoyoverse doesn't disappoint. I was already captivated by the opening theme at the starting screen, and it's stuck in my head now as the Star Rail theme. The music, combined with the image of the Astral Express floating in space, makes you feel like you're on the precipice of an adventure with the way it starts off soft and quiet, then swells with lower strings beneath it. Whereas in-game, there's a good variety of light, calming piano music at the more relaxed areas, and then intense synths in some battle sequences, and of course in-betweens like emotional accompaniment for the various conflicts in the story. Looking at Hoyoverse's other games, I don't think there was any doubt that they'd be able to develop an interesting story, character design, world building, and even soundtrack. These have never been weak points of theirs, and I'm curious to see the extent of these elements in the final product. Okay, we've talked about the world and design, but what about gameplay? Namely, the turn-based combat system, which is a big change from previous Hoyoverse games. Some may have apprehensions about this gameplay style, which I understand. It's not real-time action, and if the actions are too limited, the resulting experience might be stale. Before I share what I personally think, here's a quick rundown of the combat system. Enemies are found throughout the map, and you get close enough to begin combat with them. However, you can either attack them, and if you use an element that they're weak to, you get a starting advantage. Characters also have what are called techniques, which either buffs your team or debuffs the enemy prior to starting the battle. While it's easily taken for granted in the early game, I feel that as the difficulty gets harder, knowing how to prepare and initiate a battle will be a more important mechanic. Then during a battle, characters have a normal attack, a skill, and a burst. Your team of 4 shares 5 skill points, which get consumed when you cast a skill and regenerated when you execute a normal attack. These are moves you do turn by turn, and then turn sequences are shown in the upper left. The bursts get charged as your characters use their abilities or even when they get hit, and you can cast bursts outside of the regular turns. So for example, even if it's not March 7th's turn, I can click her burst and it's queued up immediately. Enemies also have weaknesses against certain elements, which are conveniently indicated right above their HP bar. They have these toughness bars which get reduced by elements they're weak to, and then the actual HP bars under them. So for me, this combat system was pretty easy to get used to. It doesn't demand quick reflexes from you, but more tactical thinking, such as knowing when and who to use the right ability on. While the actions may seem very limited, the combat gains more depth as you obtain more characters, learn their different abilities, and encounter more challenging battles. For example, March 7th gives this high defense shield with her skill, so she can protect your best DPS from dying. Herta is a DPS who can often insert follow-up attacks between turns. Then Danheng is a DPS, but he's single target, so you have to be selective about which enemy he should target first. One of my favorites, Welt, reduces enemy speed, which translates to you getting some extra turns while your enemy's turns are delayed. Then you want to take note of enemy weaknesses, reserve your skill points for the right characters, and find the right time to activate bursts. You can decide whether to focus fire on a single enemy or attack several enemies little by little. The strategy of Star Rail is more chess-like, with how you want to determine your moves, and as you'll encounter different battle content, it challenges you to win battles in as few turns as possible. Overall, I think the variety you'll get from these battles will highly depend on how well different characters can work together and which mechanics you can exploit. It'll be interesting to see exactly what character abilities and combinations the developers can come up with to continuously introduce novelty into this turn-based combat system. To keep us preoccupied, 2 of Star Rail's endgame contents are the Simulated Universe and Forgotten Hall. The Simulated Universe has various multi-floor challenges, big boss fights, and renewable rewards. Since there's a score system, you can keep trying to beat your previous score. Then the Forgotten Hall is a chain of beatable single characters that you can progress through, and you get more rewards the fewer cycles you use in battle. It feels like the simpler form of the Simulated Universe and will probably have higher difficulty curves as you level up. Rewards come out of these game modes, of course, but I don't know yet how sufficient these drops will be towards mid and end game. But at least from the challenge mode points, I was given enough rewards to claim a character from one of the in-game shops. Despite these different game modes though, I found myself looking for more interesting enemies. Boss fights are pretty exciting since they come with more challenging movesets, but I'm hoping for more combat variety to keep us on our toes as the game progresses. That would add more depth and longevity. Since the different gacha characters significantly contribute to maintaining enough battle complexity, how essential will it be to keep pulling them? Does this gacha game demand your wallet? I'm not sure how it'll play out in the final release, so here's what I've seen so far. In this beta version, you get Herta and Natasha for free from the story progression, in addition to MC, March 7th, and Danheng. Then there's a beginner banner with discounted pulls, and the first 10 pull guarantees Asta. Eventually, after around 7 to 8 hours of playing, I got enough rewards from the early game progression to guarantee my first 5-star, to which I got this daddy, Welt. Hopefully, these generous early game rewards are retained in the final release. Then the in-game shop I mentioned earlier has 2 characters that you can grind for, and after beating the 3rd chamber of Forgotten Hall, I got Serval as a reward. Utility-wise, this is already a good starting point for getting through battles since you are guaranteed characters from the basic elements of ice, wind, fire, physical, and lightning. From my early experience, the difficulty of even the hardest content so far is pretty manageable at a free-to-play level. Of course, as a gacha game, it will incentivize spending for new characters by gearing the combat difficulty towards specific limited characters or by making 5-star characters significant power boosts. If you know gacha games, this isn't really anything new, so it's up to Hoyo how well they can entice us to spend, while at the same time making sure that free-to-plays can still have an enjoyable experience. All in all, I have a great first impression of it. It could just be because it's a fresh new game, but I feel like I've fallen in love with the sci-fi environment, music, and characters pretty quickly. The long-term question is if the game content will be sustainable even as players reach higher levels. That's always something we'll have to watch out for, but their various challenge modes as of now are promising. I have high hopes for it, and the characters that they'll inevitably make us simp for. I would love to hear what you think in the comments and if there's any aspect of the game that you got interested in. If so, you can pre-register for the game and get a chance to win a PS5 on their official website, which I'll link in the description. But that's going to be all. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like, consider subscribing to my channel if you haven't already, and I will see you all soon. Take care!